Welcome to another episode of Let's Code. I'm pleased today to have with me Mark Studley and Morelli Veravelli from our team that looks after the IBM Runtimes. And today we're going to be discussing a follow-on to a session we held in July where we talked about the introduction of the IBM Semaru Runtimes. And today they've come back to talk to us about the IBM Runtimes for Business for all your Java support needs. So I'm your host and moderator, Neil Patterson, and I'm very pleased to welcome you today. I wondered if Mark and Morelli, if you could give a brief introduction for those of our audience who didn't catch the earlier session. Mark, can you take it away?
Sure. My name's Mark Studley. I'm a senior technical staff member at IBM and have been working as a JVM developer for almost the last 20 years, specializing in just-in-time compiler development. I'm currently the chief architect for IBM Java and one of the senior technical leads associated with the support offering that we're talking about today, IBM Runtimes for Business.
Great. And Morelli?
Thanks, Neil and Mark. Myself, Murli Veeravalli, work out of the IBM India Software Labs from here in Bangalore. I'm part of the Java Runtimes team at IBM, and in my current role, I'm responsible for product managing the Java offerings from IBM. I've been with Java support and development for over 20 years now. In the last 4 years, in my product management role, I'm responsible for taking IBM's Java offerings into the field, customer interactions, and ensuring customers get the best out of their Java deployments.
Sounds great, and welcome to both of you. So let's dive right in. In a nutshell, what is the IBM Runtimes for Business, and why does IBM provide it?
Okay, maybe I'll start with that one. So.
Okay.
Basically, it's an offering that we've created so that businesses that have mission critical Java deployments can get commercial support in case they run into any issues with their use of Java. What's the phrase? One throat to choke. Although I confess that's not really the tone that we're going for in these relationships, but that's the basic idea: is give a support fabric for customers to use Java and feel safe in that use. So that's what it is. Why did we create it? Well, I think it goes back to, IBM has been involved in supporting our Java-based software business for going on 25 years now. And so we have a very deeply skilled team that not only builds our own JVM technology, but also has been providing support for that large set of products and stakeholders on our platforms. To provide that kind of support. And what we've been seeing in the last few years is more and more customers asking us about commercial support options for their use of Java that's outside of IBM products. So this is Java use that wouldn't normally be covered by the licenses that they have for the products that they've bought from IBM. On top of that, with our open source first strategy, which we've been embarked on for almost 5 years now, we've really been expanding the number of developers that we're interacting with and smaller organizations that we talk to. And some of them are also looking for support options, especially after the licensing changes that hit the communities, when the licensing for Oracle JDK changed. And so it seemed really like a no-brainer to us, right? Customers are expressing their need to have a support framework, and we have a deeply skilled team that can offer Java support. And so that's why we created this offering.
Sounds great. And you're, as we talked about before, when we were talking about the IBM Semaru Runtimes, you're, really building on that history of success that we've had with OpenJ9 and just Java in general over the years. So, what does maybe Morelli, you can take this question. What does the IBM Runtimes for Business actually support?
Sure, Neil. So IBM Runtimes for Business, at the core of it entitles IBM's commercial support for the OpenJDK distributions of IBM Sameru Runtimes, and the Eclipse Tamarin binaries. So this is a support offering for these OpenJDK distributions. The first of this being the IBM Sameru Runtimes, available under an open and as an open edition with an open source license, and a certified edition with Java SC certification that is accompanying those binaries, and under an IBM license. Of course, the Eclipse Tamarin binaries are available from the Eclipse Adoptium project, and have the hotspot JVM underpinning them, as opposed to the OpenJ9 VM in the IBM Sameru runtimes. So this is a support offering for these two OpenJDK distributions, the IBM Sameru runtimes and Eclipse Tamarin. The unique value proposition offered by this runtimes for business offering comes through multiple ways. Firstly, given that this is a support offering that is based off OpenJDK or OpenJDK binaries that are available at no cost. Okay, customers can deploy these binaries across their entire environment. They don't even have to get entitlement for the runtimes for business offering. Download and deploy the binaries across their entire environment. Run them free of cost, right? Whether it is for development or production purposes, and the security patches for these binaries are also available free of cost, distributed by the vendors in IBM and the Eclipse Adoptium project. So that's where there's no licensing costs associated with these binaries. That's where the first USP or the value proposition comes from. More important, and dwelling into the construct of the runtimes for business offering, what runtimes for business offering provides for is the flexibility to pay only for the environments where one needs defect support, right? That is to be able to call in IBM as your trusted vendor for your support needs, to raise a ticket, and for the experts at IBM, to work the issues reported, to either provide a workaround or to provide a defect fix, right? So the key thing to note out here is there's this flexibility and choice to pay only for environments where you want defect support, and many a customer has found this to be useful, deploying to free no-cost OpenJDK binaries, and with security updates and patches being free as well from the community or the vendors distributing them, and availing the runtimes for business offering from IBM only for those deployments or instances of Java where commercial grade support is required. So that's where the significant cost savings come from, right? It's a twofold thing. The binaries that are supported themselves are no cost without a license, and secondly, the flexibility this offering provides in terms of entitling support for only those environments where it is required. Additionally, this is also flexible in the sense that there's no restriction on the deployment environment as to what deployment environments are supported. So regardless of where developers are working or where the software is deployed, whether it's on server side, desktop side, on virtual machines, containers, or cloud deployments, all of the environments are included and covered, through the support offering. That apart, this is also an offering, given that the IBM Sameru runtimes and the Eclipse Tamarin binaries cover a wide range of support a wide range of hardware and operating system, hardware and operating system and environments. IRB folds that in as well and provides full support for across all the hardware architecture and operating system environments. That apart, there is also the choice. The way we license runtimes for business is that we have separately priced desktop and server parts, acknowledging the need that Java is used across both desktop and server and environments, separately priced parts for both desktops and servers. That's from the perspective of the deployment and environment, right? But beyond that, as with regard to the actual licensing of the offering itself, we have perpetual licensing and flexibility of perpetual licensing as term license, as well as monthly term licensing. There are customers, who are more oriented or who have who take a capex based approach and are more than willing to go with a perpetual license. And there are others, who are more open to a subscription or a monthly term license. So Runtimes for Business offering provides the flexibility of either license. So yes, that in essence is the licensing and the cost flexibility. Not to forget the other value proposition, as Mark alluded to, comes by the fact that this offering is backed by IBM's world-class support organization with over 20 plus years of experience in supporting Java. It is the same Java Runtimes team at IBM which has been supporting enterprise-grade IBM products, that embed Java. It's the same. It's the same team that supports customers who purchase entitlements to their OpenJDK distributions, support for OpenJDK distributions via the Runtimes for Business offering. Last but not the least, the offering also includes not just support for Java, but also monitoring for Java. Included within the offering or the Passport Advantage eAssembly or the downloadable image for the offering is IBM's application performance monitoring software for monitoring your Java SE workloads, right? What essentially this Java SE monitoring solution helps with is it accelerates innovation with continuous application monitoring and active problem resolution. Okay, it also has lightweight open source data collectors that enable developers to find problems earlier in the application lifecycle. Okay, so data collectors which work on the client side where Java workloads are running, gleaning on the various vital parameters of that particular workload, whether it is memory consumption or the performance characteristics, CPU cycles being utilized, and channeling that into the APM server, that kind of dashboards, and provides you the various views into how the workload is faring, right? So it also helps the operations team or developers understand application behavior and performance with visibility into end user experience, before SLAs are impacted. So it kind of helps you get a feel for how the customers are experiencing your Java workloads, and of course it also helps prevent application issues from affecting your business. So there is embedded event management and analytics that can help resolve issues before they actually affect your customers. That's where the value proposition of the monitoring software included with this particular offering comes from. So in a nutshell, there is a support offering for your OpenJDK Java distributions. It also includes the monitoring software for monitoring your Java workloads. With the key point being that JDKs are available for free, so you're not paying for the JDK binaries. You're paying for support only where you want it and where it is required. Yep.
Very good. Very good. Yeah,
I'd actually like to pile on one of those
Sure.
one of the advantages and just to focus on one particular part of it. So, as Murali mentioned, it's and I mentioned too in the beginning, this is support that's offered by the team that actually builds the JVM, and I think that's actually quite rare across the Java ecosystem. There aren't very many vendors who can claim to have support personnel that are the same people who build the JVM underneath the covers, right? So that degree of deep skill is not something that's common across the ecosystem.
Right.
And by the very nature that we build this JVM across multiple platforms, intrinsic to this team is deep platform expertise as well. So
yeah.
I guess the other point to make there is also that the support is for LTS releases. So Java 8, Java 11, Java 17 will be coming, etc.
Yeah, coming soon. It seems so. Well, that actually leads into another question. That last point about who is actually providing that support, because it seems like there are a lot of different JDKs out there, different vendors providing their own implementations. What are the advantages of the ones supported by IRB, and and this deep level of commitment from IBM?
Right. Okay, I'll take that one. So as Murray mentioned, there's two of them. There's the IBM Simru Runtimes, and then there's Eclipse Temurin. So I'll go through and talk about each a little bit. So the Simru Runtimes, which are built by IBM and that we make available at no cost, you can use them, without any connection to our IRB. They're freely downloadable at our website. Are really the only JDK binaries that you can find out there that use the Eclipse OpenJ9 Java virtual machine. And that's as opposed to the reference implementation of the JVM, which is called Hotspot, and that's at the OpenJDK project and developed by lots of other people. The OpenJ9 JVM has really been optimized for fast startup and low memory footprint. So, in addition to focusing on throughput performance, which has been kind of the hallmark of Java as it's moved through the last 2.5 decades of its life. The startup and memory footprint are two of the other aspects of performance that we've really been focusing on when building Eclipse OpenJ9. And so we have some significant advantages, on the order of, for some JDK releases, it's 1/3 of the memory being consumed with OpenJ9 compared to others. And the startup performance can be on the order of 30 to 40% faster if you're using our shared classes, shared class cache technology with our cached JIT code capabilities there. So it's really an excellent choice for container and cloud-based Java workloads across a number of different operating systems and hardware platforms. And so, because, as I mentioned before, IBM is the team that actually builds OpenJ9 primarily, we're uniquely skilled to be able to support that runtime and and its use in the cloud or across any other kind of deployment. So Simru runtimes are the sort of first choice, the first recommendation that we make for the use. Let's see, is there anything I missed there? Oh, there is one other thing that I'd like to point out, which is OpenJ9 is developed slightly differently than other JVMs. So we actually, when we build OpenJ9, when we do a release of OpenJ9, it's a single source code base that can then be built across all of the active JDK releases. So when we build a Java 8 or a Java 11 or coming soon Java 17, it's a single source code base of OpenJ9 that's being put into those different releases. And so that has some advantages in terms of consistency across different JDK releases, and it makes it easier for people to migrate across different JDK releases. For example, you won't see as much or even very much at all JDK level specific tuning, right? You don't need to adapt to there being a different GC policy, for example, by default in Hotspot at different JDK levels. The same advances that are being made in garbage collection and shared classes in our cache JIT or AOT code, or any of the other things that we're implementing across the JVM space in terms of performance or other capabilities, those are being delivered consistently across all open JDK releases. And so that kind of frees people to think about, using JDK releases based on the advantages of the Java APIs that are being provided in those releases, and really, offers, just to reiterate another point that that Murley was making, it offers flexibility. Basically, you don't need to upgrade to a JDK level to get some advance in GC technology. You should do it just because there's something in the JDK that you want to use, or you have the flexibility to wait until you want that. So that's the IBM Simru runtime. So based on OpenJ9, and so a number of great advantages for using OpenJ9. However, we've seen not all of our customers are willing to make the jump to a completely different JVM in one hop. And so we also wanted to provide an option for people who are just looking to, maybe they're unhappy with their current, vendor support arrangement, or we're currently using something like Oracle JDK and wanted to move to a different JDK distribution. And so Eclipse Temurin is a community-based, vendor-neutral JDK distribution of OpenJDK. So it's available for no cost. There's a whole community around building it and testing it, and there's been a very successful community at Adopt OpenJDK, which is now moving to the Eclipse Foundation as the Adoptium project. It's currently one of the most used JDK distributions on the planet, and I think that's because it's vendor neutral and because it's using the same JVM hotspot. It's sort of an easier first starting point for people to move their existing Java workloads. And so we offer support there to Eclipse. IBM is a member of the Adoptium working group. We've been involved in creating Adopt OpenJDK in the first place. We contributed a lot of scripts and tests and some of the frameworks that are used by the Adopt OpenJDK and now Adoptium project. So we're very familiar with what that community is doing and able to provide support for those builds as well. Also a good option.
I think that your last point there is quite key. IBM continues to be committed to advancing Java as it's moved into more of an open space or open source governance and model under Eclipse now. Yep. And we're heavily involved not only in OpenJ9 but in the advancement of the other implementations. So from a support perspective, it seems like this offering will deliver a lot of value to the clients that need it, developers who are looking for a way to develop using the latest capabilities of Java, or they're just looking for guidance and support. Speaking of which, I wondered if is there anything else related to IRB in terms of helping migrate or anything like that? Mark, maybe, or Morelli, maybe you could let us know about any additional support.
Right, I'll take that, Neil. A couple of things I wanted to call out here. So IRB, or Runtimes for Business, in its earlier iterations through 1.0 and 1.1. So it kind of included support for the Adopt OpenJDK binaries, right? And we have transitioned that over to including support for the IBM Sameru runtimes and the Eclipse Temurin binaries, which are the replacements for the Adopt OpenJDK binaries. So it should be noted by customers who are deployed to Adopt OpenJDK binaries or consumers of Adopt OpenJDK binaries with the Runtimes for Business entitlement for support for Adopt OpenJDK binaries. IBM will continue to support the Adopt OpenJDK binaries, but it should, when a problem is reported on the Adopt OpenJDK binary, right? But what should be noted is that we may ask those customers to test if the problem is happening with the latest editions of the Eclipse Temurin or the IBM Sameru runtimes, and fixes, if any, will be offered only through the Eclipse Temurin or the IBM Sameru runtimes, depending on where the fix needs to go in, right? OpenJDK or hotspot. So that's an important thing. First note, we do understand that our customers will be transitioning over to these new distributions from Adopt OpenJDK, and while they're transitioning over, we'll continue to honor problems reported on the Adopt OpenJDK. It's important to note that fixes, if any, including the free security patches, as Adopt OpenJDK is no longer building and distributing the Adopt OpenJDK binaries, will be available only through the Eclipse Temurin and the IBM Sameru runtime binaries. That's point one.
Actually, sorry, let me just, can I just jump in for a sec there, Murli? And
sure.
I think there's a point we should probably make explicitly there, just because like we've talked about it in an earlier version of this, but we haven't talked about it here. So for people who have been using the Adopt OpenJDK binaries, the ones that we've been talking about here, IBM Sameru runtimes and Eclipse Temurin, are really the same binaries that you've been using before, just built by slightly different vendors, but they are actually the same thing. So IBM Sameru runtimes, for anyone who has been using OpenJDK with OpenJ9, those binaries that were provided by Adopt OpenJDK, that is the exact same thing as what IBM Sameru runtimes is. We're just building it. It's IBM building it, not the Adopt OpenJDK community doing it, although we're using the same scripting, the same release testing, same rigor around building those and making them available. And in fact, if you go to adopt OpenJDK right now and ask for the recent OpenJDK with OpenJ9 binaries, what you're actually getting is an IBM Simru runtime. So if you look inside what you got there, do a Java Dash version on it, you'll see that it's an IBM Simru runtime Open Edition binary that you're getting from Adopt OpenJDK right now. That's just a transitionary thing that the Adopt OpenJDK community was kind enough to offer. While people are making this move or getting comfortable with the move from the Adopt OpenJDK community to the Eclipse Adoptium, and in this case, the IBM Simru runtimes. And then similarly, if you were using the Adopt OpenJDK with Hotspot, which are really just OpenJDK binaries from Adopt OpenJDK, the natural transition there is the Eclipse Temurin binary, which is provided by the Adoptium group. And again, it's the exact same thing. It's just being built by the Eclipse Foundation now, as Adoptium has moved under the auspices of the foundation.
Yeah, very good.
That's a great call out, Mike. So essentially only the vendors or the distributors of these binaries have changed, and the binaries in themselves are the same as what are being produced at Adopt OpenJDK, right? And while these are distributed by new vendors in IBM and the Eclipse project, Adopt OpenJDK has been kind enough, flexible enough to kind of make these binaries available from their website as well in the transition period.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marley. And if you want to learn why it had to split up this way, we talked about that in one of our earlier sessions. So
right.
We should.
So Neil, I know I talked about the first point around these binaries, and more so about support for Adopt OpenJDK binaries in this transitory phase. The second point is about, we kind of get quite a few queries around migration, right? Most customers are migrating to OpenJDK from a proprietary Java distribution. In most cases, that is Oracle JDK. So the customers ask us, even before they avail the support, right? What does migrating to these OpenJDK distributions means? We've been advocating that's been the case as well, that IBM Sumeru Runtimes and Eclipse Temurin are drop-in replacements for Oracle JDK binaries, and this works for majority of the workloads. No application changes will be required because all the Java API or the SDK functionality behaves exactly the same, whether it is Oracle JDK or the JDK distribution supported by Runtimes for Business. They all derive from the same OpenJDK source project. So, there isn't a change with regard to application behavior or functions. So, and most customers are able to undertake the migration by themselves. However, for some complex workloads or those that have been manually or aggressively tuned to work specifically with Oracle JDK, IBM provides free migration and tuning consultancy and workshops. Our Java Runtimes team and our migration experts, developers, they provide this free migration, tuning, consultation, and workshops to help in those edge situations where customers require some migration guidance to these OpenJDK distributions. Additionally, IBM also offers paid services. Should customers need IBM to assess and or undertake the actual migration work. So while the migration consultation and advisory assistance is free of cost and is rolled into for the customers considering purchase or having purchased our Runtimes for Business offering, we do have additional paid services for customers who actually need the migration to be carried out by IBM. Yeah,
sounds good. I think we've covered a lot of ground here with respect to the to IRB. Is there any closing remarks you'd like to make? I know we flashed a few URLs into the chat, so please take a look at those. But Mark, Morelli, any closing words for our audience?
No, we welcome all developers and enterprises to embark on the OpenJDK journey to start with, avail free and open Java. More so our preference and recommendation being the one that comes with OpenJ9 JVM, which has, the optimizations for cost savings, right, as you run your Java workloads across a varied set of environments. And then more importantly, to to look to look up to IBM to provide your support needs, given that we got best in breed expertise, support developer capabilities. We're also the ones who actually build the JVM, and more importantly, a rich pedigree of supporting Fortune 500 companies on their Java support needs over 20 plus years now. We've got a great cost-effective and enterprise-grade offering in Runtimes for Business to fulfill these needs. So come on board us.
Great, sounds good.
Yeah, I'll just add, obviously our wheelhouse is Fortune 500 companies, as you'd imagine from a company like IBM. That's been sort of the area that we've typically catered to through our history. But, we are a lot more active in open source right now. We talk to a lot of developers, and certainly the offering is built around not just Fortune 500 companies, but also, smaller. So if you're a small business, small, medium, large, huge, whatever, feel free to reach out and talk to us, and we'll try to put something together that'll work for you.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
Yep.
Well, once again, want to thank both of you for coming on. I look forward as well to down the road we'll have you back to maybe do some discussion about how things are going with these offerings, and especially the move to Semaru. I think that's a great move for IBM to be producing our runtimes, making them available, no cost, and as developers, please go check out some of the links that we've shared today. With that, I will thank everybody for watching and invite you back next week for another session of Let's Code. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.